Hello, welcome back. We are four struggling filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joined with me is James.
Hello.
Jimmy.
Hello.
And Noah.
Hello.
This week we are trying a different platform to record on, so we will hopefully see some quality improvement. Let us know if you see any improvement yourself, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can help us make this happen. Who wants to kick us off with some lovely recommendations? James.
Okay. Of course, it had to be me, didn't it? Right.
It always
very
is
quick
you.
with my recommendations this week, and got three different ones, and I'm going to rank them in level of quality. I watched The Many Saints of Newark. It was good. I watched Desperado. That was very good. And I watched The Green Knight, and that was fantastic. Recommendations over. Fantastic. Don't want to say too much about any of them, but they are all very good movies.
Very good.
Green Knight looks interesting.
It is a cracking movie. Initially, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, that's good," but is it as good as people said? And then I thought back on it. I was like, "Yeah."
I unfortunately only watched the last 2 hours, but I suppose that's kind of like watching a film anyway. I watched the Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. I would recommend. I thought it was good. Bit of a marathon. I mean, I only sat and watched the second half, but it's quite long, isn't it? But
yeah,
I really
long,
enjoyed
even for the second half. That's like you missed a whole 2 hours of it.
Yeah, I did miss a whole 2 hours, but I kind of caught up quite quickly.
You missed the
full. No film should be 4 hours long.
I was watching a Japanese film earlier this week to help me sleep that was 9 hours long.
Did you watch the whole thing, just half of it in your sleep?
I watched precisely 40 minutes before I was fast asleep. But it was a really good 40 minutes. I was like, this deserves... The Human Condition is the name of the film, not My Problem Sleeping.
Oh, that makes sense. Have you got another recommendation?
Who's the director?
Masaki Kobayashi.
Metropolis I rewatched. That's really good too. Groundbreaking.
Yes. I've got to recommend a 2010 classic, Tony Scott's Unstoppable.
Oh, banger. What a great film.
It is a good film, isn't it?
Come on.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't know why, Hollywood don't make films like that anymore.
What we're cracking on with then, Jimmy? What is today?
Today we are taking a jump onto the nostalgia train for a ride, if we're going to keep that theme going. First stop, childhood films, and we're gonna talk about some of the things that have shaped our film preferences, I guess, and the stuff that really had a big impact on us as a kid. Some of it's probably utter shite. Some of it's probably really good. Without further ado, who's going to kick us off? Let's generally discuss.
The first film we can remember. Or the first film we saw at the cinema.
Oh, I can't remember that.
I think what came out first? Finding Nemo and Monsters, Inc.
Monsters, Inc.
Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
I think it was Monsters, Inc. then.
Yeah.
That's got to be
2001 for Monsters, Inc. and 2000.
You saw 2001 in the cinema? Whoa.
I don't actually remember what film I saw first at the cinema, but I do remember quite clearly a film. I was on holiday we were doing a UK caravan holiday, and it was really bad weather, and it was pouring down with rain and really windy, and so we spent most of the time in the cinema, and I think we saw The House at the End of the Street, that monster house, and Cars, maybe, I think it was those two films. I remember going to cinema and seeing those, and I thought they were quite good.
That's a real mix of tones there.
We didn't watch them back to back. It was on separate days, but it was it was a really good holiday by the seaside, but it was torrential rain and gale force winds.
Wait, do you mean the animated film Monster House, or do you mean the house? Which one?
I'm not sure. The one
the house is a monster.
I think so.
I remember that film.
Yeah,
that's Monster House.
That is Monster House.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
I was just thinking, if one of the first films you saw at the cinema was The House at the End of the Street. My God,
that's a bit dark. Yeah, Monster House. Yeah, and that's where I learned what a uvula is. The thing back in the throat.
Then that must be the uvula. Oh, so it's a girl house. What?
They jump and swing on it, don't they?
They do. I think they spray it with water at one point as well. That's one of the first films I saw at the cinema. I had the poster.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi.
Yes.
Is he in it?
He owns the monster house, who is possessed by the spirit of his dead wife. This is the hardcore shit like that kids' films were made of back in the day.
Now you think about it, it's got quite a lot of layers, isn't it? This whole house is trying to eat these kids.
It's terrifying.
I take it a lot of animation was involved in our childhood.
Yeah.
Pixar, Disney, Shrek, Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story, and then going through from
Toy
like
Story
Toy Story
2.
1 to like going through and watching all the Toy Stories. Like that's definitely
As you grow up as well.
I think everyone felt that as well because we kind of all grew up with Andy, and like I liked the fact that through the films they make Andy older and older, so it is like a continual scale. It's not just about Woody and his ragtag gang of toys. It's like Andy's growing up as well, and then when the like last ones came out, we were a bit older, and like it's that emotional thing of oh my god, you are growing up. James, do you remember seeing anything at the cinema?
Genuinely, no. I remember sitting home and watching.
Loves film so much.
DVDs and videos more than I do anything about going to the cinema.
Yes.
Like the latest I can remember, or earliest, sorry, the earliest I can remember seeing a film in the cinema was the Simpsons movie, and I don't remember that being.
That's like 2007.
Yeah, I know. That's as far back as my memory goes.
You were 9.
I was 9.
I do remember. I remember seeing the trailer for that in the cinema a long time before it actually came out. And being
I don't think I was ever a massive fan of The Simpsons until like
Ooh.
in my 20s.
Controversial.
Ooh,
You didn't grow
I
up with-
remember my first 12A film, I think.
What was that?
Peter Jackson's King Kong.
King Kong.
You actually-
King Kong with what's his face?
Naomi Watts, Jack Black, Adrian
Jack Black.
Brody.
You actually sat through that at the cinema at 8 years old.
I think I went and saw it as well.
It's a good film.
It's a good film, but at 8 years old, 3.5 hours in the cinema, you can count me out.
Mm.
Andy Serkis doing his thing.
When he gets eaten by those worms, one of those.
Oh,
most
that's really
jarring-
scary, that bit.
Absolutely, one of the most disturbing things to this day I've seen in film.
Growing up, like how much did film affect you? How much did it? Obviously, as we've grown up now, we've gone and done a degree in it, so it's a massive part of our lives. But growing up, was it a massive part then? Because I remember, like on car journeys and things like that, we used to have the little screens that went on the back of the chair, and we used to sit and watch movies on the way to like long journeys.
Some of us were poor in there.
I also had the in-car DVD player, which made on a journey to France. I once watched the entire Police Academy franchise, which was bad. But no, I had a massive impact. Like I'm convinced, and we're going to get onto this topic at some point sooner or later, that what you watch when you're young will shape an awful lot of your film taste. Not entirely, because you can definitely bounce back against it. But I watched a lot of. Films I've got here, vintage stuff I watched when I was young. King Kong, right? One of the first films I had on video, which I watched religiously. Jason and the Argonauts, right? A bit of a theme here, stop motion animation, and Them that I made James watch the other week. Those are like my 3 main films, but they're all like, the most recent of those is from 1963 or something. So I watched a lot of old films when I was young. And I think that's why today I will watch silent films, I will watch black and white stuff, and without a care in the world. It doesn't bother me at all. But 90% of kids who didn't get exposed to that from a young age just will not watch older stuff. So I think it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, I had like a lot of Disney films on my list. Like obviously The Little Mermaid, you guys know I love. Bambi, all that. I mean, when you think about it, Bambi's not a cheery story.
Bambi's soul destroying, yeah.
Man's just lost his mum, but yeah. Also,
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little had that on video.
I do remember watching Stuart Little, but I don't think like I was like fascinated by it. But
James,
Michael J. Fox.
I was going to say James.
Pan. I used to watch the Peter Pan all the time. Like Like there was a version of it with the Peter Pan had like curly hair,
Oh
one.
no. Oh no!
What a
You
bad
when you
one.
said Peter Pan, I thought it was going to be a good one. You mean I think it might just be called Pan.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I do
No,
believe in
Pan's the
fairies.
2015 one.
Oh,
Pan's,
there's-
Yeah.
because there's two different versions. I know the ones you mean. Because there was Peter Pan in like 2003, which is what Emma's talking about.
yes, that's it.
He's got like his little blonde kid with curly hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then, and then you got Pan, which is 2015. That's the one where they do Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it's Hugh
And
Jackman.
you've also got Hook.
You also
Yeah,
got
Hook.
Hook as well, the best
Yeah.
one.
I do. Yeah, Peter Pan is a great story. I think it's been told many times, and I think it will be continued to be told. Like that's the thing with childhood films, and especially what we're experiencing now with Disney, is the stories don't change. It's how they're told, and childhood films can be revamped and renewed for each generation. And the generation before sometimes gets upset about it because that's their childhood, the nostalgia. But like I think films will always be revamped and renewed for the new generation.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good thing.
No,
Personally.
I don't necessarily think it is a good thing. There's pros and cons to it. I think one of the big pros is when you go back and revamp new films is you can add more modern ideologies, which is a good thing. But then there's the bad things like, I don't know if any of you have seen the adverts for the new Cinderella with Camilla Cabello.
Oh
It just-
yeah.
doesn't-
It's been horrifically rated. It's got like a 4 point something on IMDb.
Yeah.
What's it got on Letterboxd though for
I don't know.
for
But,
etiquette people? Well,
I
is
feel
it
like
Cinderella?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the issue recently with a lot of remakes of like childhood classics is when you're remaking a film, surely you're trying to set out to make a better movie than the one that came before, or like
Or
a different
didn't-
interpretation at least.
Exactly.
But with all the Disney ones, the live action ones specifically, they are literally beat for beat exactly the same, but worse. So like, what does that really achieve?
It got 1.6.
Oh, nice.
Oh god. But like
It's got James Corden in it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah, that
Sorry,
could
it's
be
got
why.
Ramesh Ragnafane in.
Ramesh
You mean
Ranganathan.
Ranganathan?
It's got Rob Beckett in it as well. What?
What? This sounds like an absolute joke.
Why has it got Camilla Cabello and the London comedian circuit?
But the way they've done it is so they've mashed up like popular songs and made it kind of like a laddie sort of like, oh, Cinderella, and like she's like, Anna, I'm a badass bee.
Why have they done that?
Yeah.
I have a good question, maybe.
Go
What
on.
was the first film you watched young when you really shouldn't have watched it because it was too, like, not age appropriate?
Too scary, too spooky.
The first one I remember at maybe 4 or 5 years old. Signs, the film with Mel Gibson, and yeah, I remember that, and that scared me as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old maybe.
Was it the camera footage where the
Yes, the camera footage absolutely done
I
me
don't
in.
understand why people find that scene scary. Like, I can understand in the context of when you're a kid.
Because it's
But,
real,
like-
mate. It feels real.
Does it though?
It does.
When you're 5 years old, it is.
I used to love that film when I was a kid. Swing Away, Meryl. Like, so shit though, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's not one I want to
I
watch
think-
again. Really.
For me, the film that would probably fit that, it kind of fits the bracket, but it kind of doesn't. I think I was maybe 13 and I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and it like
Oh my god.
shook me up
That's
For-
pretty bad. Yeah.
quite a while. It gave me we watched it on Halloween as well. They were all like, oh come on, let's watch it, and I really didn't want to, but I sat and watched it anyway, and it like I really didn't like that. And then a couple of days later my friend was like, should we watch Final Destination? And I was like, no, but she put it on anyway, and it was the roller coaster one. I like, even to this day, I know it's not real, but because it shook me so much, even to this day, like, if I like close my eyes and I'm having a shower or something, I like freak out
You
because I'm
see
like,
Freddy.
yeah. And for a while, like, it was very, very vivid. It's not so much an issue now, obviously, but it really stuck with me for a good few years.
It's quite a terrifying film, like really. Like some of the stuff, particularly in the first fight, that film starts off pretty strong. where he's
Doesn't
like
it?
belly open and slicing his fingers off. Yeah, I think that's a pretty okay film to have been scared of at 13.
I watched Death, The Mummy and The Mummy Returns with Brendan Fraser.
That scared the shit out of me as a kid. Yeah.
Never scared me. I just loved it.
I could deal with The Mummy Returns as a kid, but I couldn't deal with The Mummy.
What happens in The Mummy that's scary? Is it the sand bit?
There's scarab beetles eating people. Somebody gets
Oh,
his
the
eye-
Beatles bit is pretty horrible, yeah.
Do you have a film that you remember watching when you shouldn't have?
Well, here's a little insight to James's childhood. When I was a kid watching films, I was a little bitch. So anything that I had an inkling of, this is gonna scare me, I just wouldn't watch. Even if looking back, the films aren't that scary, I just wouldn't watch them. So like, for some reason, most of the Disney princess films I wouldn't watch. And you're probably thinking, wait, none of that is scary, James. I'm like,
it's
I know,
scary.
but apparently me as a kid thought it was scary.
Oh, is it because of like the baddies in them?
I don't know. I don't know what happened in my brain when I was a kid, but apparently so.
But when you've been told as well, like, if you get told by your parents, like, oh, you can't watch this because it's scary, your brain comes up with things far worse than the film could ever show you.
Yeah.
And you just build it up. Like, you'll say to your mum, like, oh, why can't I watch The Exorcist? And they'll be like, no, it's far too scary. And they might tell you like 2 seconds of it. And in your head, it's like the scariest thing ever. And then you finally see it years later and you're like, oh, this is fine.
I remember I only watched the second Harry Potter, but none of the other ones. That was kind of creepy in of itself, because they're like writing like blood letters on the walls and they've got this massive snake and shit.
I grew up every summer when the books came out. My dad would read us the books every summer. And then so the films became such a massive part of my growing up as well, because we'd spent so many, 7 summers reading, so 7 years reading these books. And then when they came out, like it became such a lovely like family activity to go and see the films. So that was quite a big thing from our childhood, of Harry Potter films.
It was a massive sensation. Somehow I think I managed to never see one at the cinema, but for our generation it was an event every year. And like Toy Story, they grew up sort of the way we did.
Oh, and Wallace and Gromit.
Wallace and Gromit, yeah, that's a good one.
Oh,
yeah,
I could talk about those for days.
We didn't really grow up with Wallace the same way we grew up with Harry Potter.
I personally did.
No,
you were
the
not.
Rabbit.
Yeah, what I'm
I
saying
didn't watch Cat for the Were
You're
Rabbit.
saying, like,
I went to the cinema.
Yeah, there's not a parallel between you physically getting older and Wallace getting older.
Yeah, because Wallace is the same age
Gromit
today.
ages.
Wallace is the same age today as he was back when they were created.
Yeah, with a different voice actor because he died.
No, it's not true.
I've got a good question. So children, like when they find something they love, children love to watch a film, watch things over and over again because it promotes, like, they know what's going to happen next, and like people they just fascinate on it. So what was your film that you remember watching over and over again?
Small Soldiers.
Nah.
Soldiers.
I watched that over and over.
Presumably you mean...
I am Archer, leader of the Gorgonites.
Yes, you did that one.
My like films that I always watch, The Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan one. I don't know. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favourite films. I watched it over and over and over again. I thought it was brilliant. That and what was the other one? Oh, I love Cheaper by the Dozen.
Oh, Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2, mate. Those are banging films. They're not, but I remember them.
Yeah. I imagine if I sat and watched them back now, I'd think, oh my god, these films are awful. But like Cheaper by the Dozen was just a banger, wasn't it? Back in the day, it was so funny. Like, yeah.
So early 2000s. It's
Steve
just like
Martin.
coated in that just style all the way through. Whenever that one song plays, it reminds me of Cheaper of the Dozen.
Oh my god!
I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare. That one song. I can't even remember the name of.
Sing more. I never watched Cheaper by the Dozen. For me, it was Daddy Daycare.
Oh,
Daddy
Daycare. Big Daddy.
Sorry?
Adam Sandler films. Do
Oh,
they count?
no. Is that dirty for kids?
Big Daddy. I remember watching that.
Is them
Obviously, I didn't get half the jokes. And then that's got Steve Buscemi in as well, isn't it? It's the homeless person. He tries to get a McDonald's breakfast.
Was your childhood just coded in
Steve Buscemi.
I bet you
Steve
loved
Buscemi
Spy
was in
Kids.
so much.
He was in Spy Kids, man.
Yeah, did
Yeah.
you love Spy Kids?
Spy Kids 2.
It was
Did you guys
alright.
have the 3D version with the 3D glasses?
Yeah.
Spy Kids 3.
Oh god, yeah.
No,
Spy
Spy
Kids
Kids
1,
2.
can't remember anything about it. 2, I remember more. 3, I watched constantly.
Spy Kids 2 was, for me, the pinnacle. Like, that was an event when that came out on the Disney Channel on TV. What about films that we this might go back to what you just said, Emma, about the cheaper by the dozen. Films we loved. I mean, loved as a child.
Back to the Future.
No. I'm not. That's not it. No, there's more. Films we loved as a child. That looking
Back to the Future. All three.
But looking back at it, they're not very good. Well, the first film I had on video and then DVD was 1998's Godzilla, which
Oh yeah.
freaking loved as a child. I thought it was amazing. I still kind of, non-ironically think it's pretty good. But that film was universally hated, but I could not get enough of it.
1997's George of the Jungle. Back in the day, you think that's amazing, such a good. And then, if you watch it back, it'd probably be absolutely shocking.
Brendan Fraser at his finest, looking great, I must say. Yeah,
He should have been much bigger, shouldn't he?
most of the film is him literally flying into a tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when we used to go to school and we'd sometimes fake an illness, what films would you watch on the day you'd fake an illness? I'll put my hand up and say, being John Malkovich.
That's a very odd pick.
Yeah.
I can't answer the question. I've never pulled a sickie. Sorry.
Really?
But if you were sick,
I'm an
what
honest
would you put on?
boy.
If you didn't feel well, what film would you put on? What's your childhood feel-good film?
I don't know. Most of the films that I watched were just films that I watched over and over and over again.
What did you guys think of Free Willy?
Never saw it.
Do you got?
I was
Wasn't
You never saw it, James?
Nah. Didn't want to watch a film about a big whale. Seemed boring.
It
It wasn't that good, really.
I thought it was stunning, and the film always has me in tears at the end.
I always used to laugh.
It's got so overrated.
Free Willy. It's an emotional
Because it's
story.
cool.
Why would you watch that when you can watch Cats and Dogs, which is just as emotional?
I think Free Willy has a bigger ecological message behind it, Noah, than Cats
Sure.
and Dogs.
Yeah, but it takes itself too seriously, where this film's got Michael Clark Duncan in.
Oh,
That's because it was a serious. It was a serious topic.
just say no. The lives of killer whales was pretty serious.
Well, stop calling them killer whales. They're orcas, mate. Come on.
No one
Wait.
watched Blackfish and went, oh, this is a bit serious for me.
This is a bit of too much of a serious documentary for me.
Look, Free Willy's such a diva.
All right, you guys didn't like Free Willy, fine.
I liked Free
loved
Willy. I loved Free Willy.
What about Scooby Doo?
Oh, that film was freaky. I tried to watch
The
it.
film with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. and
It was better as
Rowan
a
Atkinson
cartoon.
for some reason.
Talking of Rowan Atkinson, we can't get past without Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean, Johnny.
And I wasn't part of my childhood a lot.
Mr. Bean's Holiday was a big deal. when that came out.
Yeah, I think I saw that at the cinema.
Johnny English? What about Johnny English?
I like that.
He's got some classic lines in there. Yeah. Oh,
What
yeah.
was the first film you watched when you were like, okay, this is a bit more than just entertaining me. I see this as like a bit more than just that, if you know what I mean.
Something deeper going on.
Yeah.
Shutter Island,
Oh,
Really?
and that's why it's been my favorite film ever since. I've seen it so many times, and that the film, yeah, for me that was the film. It had classic twists and turns. Leonardo DiCaprio, which when you're young and everyone says, "Oh, this is the best actor," you're like, "Oh my god, best actor!"
And he's fit as fuck.
That one and Inception as well.
Yeah.
Drive.
Drive made you think, this has a lot to say about the human condition.
No, but Drive was like one of the first films where I was like, oh, this is like not really conventional. This is like, well, obviously I know now it's like an art house indie.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it was like the first. I was like, this isn't just normal Hollywood. This is what films can be. They can be a bit more than just a superhero, la di da di da.
I'd say thematically for me, watching Taxi Driver when I was about 15, 16. I watched it slightly before that and hated it, but I got it about 16, and I thought this sums up everything I feel, like all the stuff I'm going through, the loneliness of being a 16-year-old ugly kid with braces. Travis Bickle somehow got
compared to Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, but it's that loneliness, you know. I think Scorsese managed to sell that to me with Robert De Niro in that film, and I'd say that film made me want to do screenwriting as well.
I genuinely don't know. I don't even. Did my childhood even happen?
You still haven't given us your list of the films you watched over and over again.
Or what made you watch them over and over again?
Yeah.
Do you seriously want the entire list?
Yeah.
I'm going to go really quick.
If you're watching at home, tick them off as he goes.
The Emperor's New Groove, Lilo and Stitch, Mulan, The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh, The Rescuers, Fox and the Hound, Lion King, Tarzan, The Tigger Movie, Chicken Little, and all the Disney straight-to-video sequels that they made. And then we move on to Pixar, which is Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, and Toy Story 3, and all the Pixar shorts as well, because all of them are really good. Then DreamWorks, Shrek, Shrek 2, Shark Tale, Madagascar, Over the Hedge, Flushed Away, Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar 2, Monsters vs. Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek 4, Megamind, and Horton Hears a Who. Then we've got a bunch of live action stuff. We've got Matilda, Santa Claus 1, 2, and 3, The Princess Diaries 1 and 2, Holes, Freaky Friday, Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2, A Simple Wish, Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji, Sky High, Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, but just that one. National Treasure 2, The Book of Secrets, which is the first Blu-ray I ever owned. Spy Kids 3, Stuart Little 1 and 2, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, The Cat in the Hat. I've seen every single film in that list more than once.
Can we have a moment to appreciate how amazing The Emperor's New Groove is? Like, there were some really good films on that list, but The Emperor's New Groove was amazing, wasn't it?
You wonder why I put it first.
But that film's really clever because that film is quite postmodern, isn't it?
In a way, yeah. Do you know much about how the film was made?
No.
There is a documentary that was released, I think, a couple of years after the film came out, I think around 2007. And it's a documentary that Disney had forcefully tried to shut down many times. Because they don't want any of the info getting out. But I managed to see it not too long ago. It's called The Sweatbox. And it's about the making of The Emperor's New Groove.
The scenes of that where he stops it and says, that's me in the sack. And he draws on it like nearly 30 years before Deadpool did any of this stuff. Did that trigger something in James?
No, I just thought it was funny.
You're trying to get into the deeper levels.
Yeah, you're right.
James's childhood, and he's like, nah, it's just funny.
Yeah, you're trying to get into a deeper level of Little James, and Little James didn't give a shit. He just liked watching movies.
You say that, but there were films like, obviously, Emperor's New Groove, Over the Hedge, you mentioned Flushed Away, and some other comedies, and that's your favourite genre now. So in a way,
that is true. In that context, yes, it has. And looking back at some of the films I watched as a kid, I can appreciate a lot more of their themings and the craft of the film than I did when I was a kid. But when I was a kid, I didn't care. So
I think we're kind of getting to the final stages sort of thing.
Yeah.
What are some final thoughts you have on childhood movies and the nostalgia you feel when you see them?
Let's watch them again. Can you get nostalgic over films from a different era in your life?
What?
Right, if I watch Dazed and Confused now, I get nostalgic over university days.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it so much during those days.
Psycho gives me university nostalgia.
Psycho?
Only because that was one of the first films I watched in my uni halls as part of our university assignment. And I watched it with a few of my flatmates. And yeah, it was the calm before the storm.
I don't watch it regularly, but The Greasy Strangler makes me think of you three.
I haven't seen the film.
yeah, you weren't even there, Jason. It doesn't make me think of you. On that bombshell.
As you can see, we're going to continue to struggle. And maybe one day James will unlock his childhood memories. I really you know. You guys continue to stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe so we know that you enjoyed it. Give us a big like, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah,
For
because
me-
then you got Disney films, then you got Pixar films, and that's the whole thing. Then you get the dickheads who say Pixar's made by fucking Shrek.
Stop swearing.
I'm sorry, I get heated about this.
Oh, Pixar's made by Shrek.